Easy ye, how are we?
Johnny, I'm a bit scared.
Uh-oh.
I've done 80 kilometers this week. Do you know the way they say increase by 10%? I've increased by 130%.
Well, I'm glad this week I'm not going to go under all the blame out doing things wrong. Hey, Eric, what do you do? 80K in 1 week? You probably did not even 8K the week before or maybe the month before. What's going on?
It's because you keep signing me up for all these events. It's like
Don't
1,000
blame me.
ways to kill Eric.
I'm
Huh?
getting blamed for signing up all different races lately. Don't put you in that now as well. That's not right. I'm not taking that heat this week. So is this nerves leading to Barcelona? Is this just because you had a race this week as well? Like you're flying it.
Wow, race is a strong word. There was other people there, and fair play to Cian Charlton, who I met on the start line. He ended up finished second. So some people were racing. I was
At a race.
I was at a race. Yeah. I was PR and emotional support. That's probably what I was. But yeah, it was really good. It did the Run the Night in Dublin. I think nearly 5,000 people did it. It was amazing. Now, I will admit, standing on a train platform in Maynooth, and it was pissing rain, and it was freezing, and I was like, I hate Sean. I was like, why am I going to this? I was like, I hate running. I hate this. I hate everything. But then I got in, and it was Start was in front of Citibank there, just the convention centre, Citibank, just Samuel Beckett Bridge, kind of in that sandwich there.
Yeah.
And NCI was where the registration was, but the queue was huge, and I was like, whoa, there's a lot of people here, because on the train I was the only one in runners, and they were manky from the forest. I probably looked homeless. But when we got into town, I was having some crack with people in the queue, as you do. I was standing there having a good old time. So a big shout out. I need to give a shout out to Ed Fitz. He was only started running a month before, and he was taking on his first 8K. He was also there with Sophie, who did a 10K or an 8K or a 10K in the Alps a week before, and was worried about an 8K in Dublin. I was like, I think you're going to be all right. So well done to the two of them. They kept me company. Emily as well, who just come back from London. She was there with a friend, and we all had a bit of crack in the 10 minutes we were waiting. So a big shout out to them. Oh, something happened that I wasn't used to. You warned me about it. But a big shout out to Kyle. Kyle spotted me. Well, obviously, I look like any given run day lamppost because I'm wearing the hat, and I'm abnormally tall. But the Kyle spotted me. He must have spotted me from ages away and just caught me off guard. He was like, "You Eric from the podcast?" And I was like, "No." And I kind of confused him because he was 100% on it, and then I said no. And but yeah, no, a big shout out to him for coming to say hello, and loves he listens every week, and was telling me how much he loves us. Big well done. And then I met him on the start line. We got a nice selfie, so we'll get that out during the week. But thanks so much for listening, Kyle, and coming to say hello. But it was great. It was a really, really nice experience. The rain stopped. It was heavy, then light rain between 7, 7:30, and then like come 20 to 8, getting to 8 o'clock start time, the rain stopped, and I was like, oh, I'm feeling a bit more. Now I was running in the running trousers. I had a jacket and my t-shirt over and my hat on. I was absolutely freezing on the start line.
You didn't keep the jacket on for the whole thing, did you?
Of course I did, Sean. I was freezing.
You're in a race.
Nah, race. I wasn't going that fast to justify wearing any less, but it was.
We don't even wear a pair of shorts.
No,
like shorts with tights or something.
I wore shorts today in the Phoenix Park for the first time since I've come home, and that was brave. I thought that was a brave move. So that was the first time I've been in shorts. It's freezing.
Right, when you're in the starting line, are you the only one wearing? Just for context here, are you the only one with a jacket, t-shirt, and bums?
I look like your football manager on the side of the pitch, except I was in the race. Jeez. Sean, it was cold. And the only thing that changed during the race was the hat came off at 5K because like, okay, I'm a bit warm now. I took the hat off.
5,000 people. I'm pretty sure I wasn't there, but I saw a few of the videos and stuff. I'm pretty sure you're the only one in a jacket and a t-shirt and full tracksuit bottoms or whatever you want to call them.
Yeah.
In an 8K race.
Yeah, but I had me pink socks on, so I looked fast.
Did you have your carbons on?
Huh?
Did you have your carbons on?
No, would you go way over that carbon? Would you stop? No, it was, but it was now. Look, for me, I just haven't acclimatized. You know, it was 2 or 3 degrees, and it was impossible. Like, that's not to say I wasn't trying. Like, I was pushing for what was a 160. I was in the 160s, and then the second half let it climb into the 170. So for me, the perfect good effort, 8K, and exactly what I wanted to do. And if part of that was brought on by the extra clothing, delighted, because we're in the race to kind of save Barcelona. So like in the end, it was just to give me a higher threshold heart rate training run with so many people. And you know what? The route was amazing. We did a night run, I'm going to say 8 years ago, Sean, 2018-ish. 2019-ish, and it was a 10K, and it went out by Ringsend in Irishtown. And looking back on it, I didn't enjoy it. I don't think I enjoyed it. The route and all, it was okay. It was good, but this route and the 5 mile distance, I think, is fantastic. Yeah,
Okay.
I think it's perfect. Some people get caught out with it. So the route is really nice. You start off, you head down towards the Custom House. Those who know Dublin will know what I'm talking about. You turn left, you cross the Liffey to the south side, and then you're back up into the Grand Canal Dock kind of area. You cover about 3K, come back across Samuel Beckett Bridge, and you're seeing all the other people starting in the next wave after you've gone and after you've gone. It was
All
really
different
cool.
waves. I suppose with
Yeah,
5,000 people, you have to wave it.
5,000, yeah.
Wait, why are you in wave one? Are you in wave
Because
one?
I had pink socks on. I looked fast.
You're in the back of wave one.
Here, I tell you what, because that's the tickets they gave me. But I knew I was in trouble. I was standing in Spar having a Lucozade and a croissant because I hadn't eaten. And the girl goes to me, "Oh, you must be really fast." I was like, "What?" She must have seen me pink socks. And no, she pointed to my number. "Oh, that means you can do this in 32 minutes to 36 minutes. So it was like, I nearly choked on my croissant. I was like, "What?" Yeah. So anyway, I was in wave one. I was up in me winter gear, rubbing shoulders with the likes of Cian Charlton and the lads. How are you, lads?
Oh, God.
Best of luck to everyone here. Anyone want a selfie? And so yeah, it was good crack. But it meant I got to have more people pass me out. The elites in the other waves come past me. But I held my own in the wave, in fairness. You know the way you kind of tie in with a couple of people, and they're just this mental battle. They pass you out, and they're like, "Oh, this guy's getting in my way," and then 100 meters down the way, you pass by them, and they're like, "Hee hee hee." So I had one mental battle with one girl up until about 6K, and then I lumped on the coals, and she didn't come back, and that gave me a little bit of pride because I was running in tracksuit. But it was but it was a great race. The second half, so you got to the point, the O2, whatever it's called. You turn left and you're heading down towards the toll bridge or the port tunnel, and you reach that at about 4K. So you know you're halfway there. But what they don't tell you is, and I knew when we took the turn for East Wall, I was like, uh-oh, this is the same way that the Dublin City half marathon ended. And if I recall, there are a couple of little, oh yeah, there it is. Bridge, hills, flat rises. And it was breaking people because they were pushing, and maybe a lot of people are,
Fast race.
5K, 5 mile sounds similar, but you do have to be wary because that extra 3K can be a lot. And
if you're
no,
running
I
a
wasn't
5K
going
pace, absolutely.
Yeah, it's a big difference. And a few people, when it came to these little rises, you could see it cut them down. But it was a really nice route then to run those streets at night. And then you came up over a footbridge that kind of comes by Connolly. I actually saw it when I was in town yesterday. When I was on the train, I was like, "Oh, that's the footbridge." So it was really cool. You went up this nice lit footbridge down, and then it was a similar finish. You just had to add on a little bit more. So yeah, it was a really, really nice race, really nice finish, well executed, I have to say. And in terms, and Joanne Murphy, who was on the podcast, was announcing, she did what she does best and created a fantastic atmosphere at the start line. And yeah, like I was so surprised because everyone was so covered up, and it wasn't until I got there I was like, wow, there is a lot of people to do this, because I no idea on numbers, but when I turned around at the front, me and all the Kenyans at the front, and I turned around, and there's 5,000 people and it goes all the way back. I was like, wow, this is a lot of people.
Random
So
Wednesday
well
night.
done to Ollie, Sarah, the team. What an event. I really enjoyed it. The medal and a hat. What a run that is, and you get a medal and a hat. And a good medal. But no, I have to say, I would genuinely, and logistically it was okay, as in parking wasn't an issue. It was a Wednesday night in Dublin,
Yeah.
started at 8 o'clock. By the time the race was over, it's a 5 mile. It was 9 o'clock and we were making shapes and absorbing. I was back at the car at 9:15, changed and on the way out of the city, and no traffic, no anything, no trouble getting out. Chipper was empty. You guarantee I went into the chipper. I was thinking of Ray Shaw's mate actually when I was in there. I was like, but yeah, it was a really nice event, and luckily the rain held off for it. But it was cold. You didn't want to hang around afterwards, and I think that's probably the only downside. The post-mortem of the race and the bit of crack afterwards. People, you were hot when you finished, but you were very quickly cooling down. You know, it was one of those you wanted to get warm gear on and get out of there. But I have to say, really nice events, and a race of two halves. Definitely two completely. I think there was only one section where we had to run on the footpath, and that was up at the point in front of the O2. What's it called? Tree Arena, whatever it is.
Arena, yeah.
Vodafone Stadium.
Well, you're heading towards the Port Tunnel. It looked like you're on the path. Am I right?
Yeah, that was on the path. And then what happened was, now maybe I'm wrong, but when you turned the corner, the road was closed. I could see the road was closed. Everyone kept running on the path, so I was the only one running on the road. Someone was like, "Go off the road." I was like, "Get off the path."
I paid for this privilege. I'm taking to make the most of it.
Yeah. No, but I have to say, really nice. And I hope if they do it next year, I hope it's the same route, because it is an experience. It is a nice route. And even people coming out of their houses at that hour of the evening to give an applause in the freezing cold. That was really nice. Really nice event. I did enjoy it. I never regretted doing a run, but when I will say, when I was standing on the platform and there was a cold chill, I was like, oh, this is misery. You know, and I'm looking at people in singlets and shorts going, how in God's name? I was so cold, but so many people. Big shout out even on the start line. You up the flats? There was a few boys there, and they were going for sub 32, and I was like, look, you stand in front of me. I won't get in your way. And Kellyanne actually, who recorded me, was like spotted in the wild any given run day. She didn't know if it was me because she thinks when I'm sitting down I'm 5'8", and when I'm actually standing beside them I'm 6'4" with me hat on. Then I'm about 8 foot tall. So she didn't say hello, but she recorded me. But they were all there. and great fans of the show, and always reach out to us. So well done to everyone. It was But yeah, it's definitely a course for PBs, Sean. Like, as in the first half was really fast. It is quick. And then the second half, I would say, and I would imagine when you're at the front, it makes it a race with a few little rises and a few little of everything. Like, you do earn it. You do earn that PB. So yeah, for me, it was a great race. Really enjoyable one. And I would say one I would put back in the calendar as well. I think it was to be around that buzz again, especially on a start line. It's just different to training. You know, in 8K, I'm like, I could have done this at home. But no, it was really good. And they are the days, particularly in training, where, look, I know I was running in my jacket, but I was cold. I've come from Africa, so like it was the same as what would be someone in a singlet. You know, it was no difference. But when you're in a training block, you kind of lose track of how fast can I go? Am I doing this on my own? But to be dragged along with the crowd at the start, you're like, wow, yeah, okay, I'm in it. And then it's 4K and you're like, can I hold this? You know, it's really good. It's really enjoyable in that sense. And so, yeah, it's a good one. It's a good one to keep for those who are trying to work on speed and keep building up in the, I suppose, the winter, spring collection time. It's a good one.
Yeah, there's a lot of training days where sometimes you do a run and you're like, oh, I can't hold any sort of pace or anything like that. And then you go to a race and it may not be flat out, but you're like, you surprise yourself, go, oh, yeah, I'm holding this. Like, I talked about last summer, I was getting back training and I jumped down to 1 or 2 5Ks. I'm like, I know I'm not getting sub 20 or anything like that. Geez, it'd be nice. I wish I could. I even talked to the podcast 1 week. I just couldn't hold a 440 or 445 or a couple of K. I'm like, what am I doing here? Just compared to what I did before. And then I did a race a couple of days later, and all of a sudden I'm holding 4:20, 25, and nothing's changed except atmosphere and stuff around you. And while it wasn't an A race killing yourself, you do get a little bit of push. But before we move on from it, you looked very happy at the finish line. And I almost say looked almost too happy compared to the detriment of one person on one stage, because you looked like you scared the shit out of poor Joanne.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, attacked her. Yeah, Joanne was in full flow, thanking everyone for being special, and I was like, "Watcha!"
Ain't funny with a big beanpole coming out of nowhere.
Oh yeah, it was great. But no, it was yeah. I definitely caught her by surprise there, but it was good. Really good race, really enjoyable, and look, it's helped. We move on from that out training this morning for. I think I did 21.5 this morning, but because of the 8K and I was holding a 4:55 for 8K and feeling comfortable, I was like, well, do you know, your long run can't be over 6 minutes. It has to be 5:55 now, where I would have accepted 6:30s, or you know, and it does elevate you. So it was really good. I tell you what, the Phoenix Park, Sean.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, how was the word in the park? First time in years.
You nearly run people over coming in the gate. There are so many people out running on a Saturday morning. It is amazing, because on the whole drive in, you're like, oh, 20K. Oh, it's cold. You know, the usual. As soon as I turned in that gate, it was like, my God, there's runners everywhere. Like every path. Would I even go back 2 years before I left? There was not that many. There was not that many, but oh my God, the amount of people in there running, you can't not run. You know, you can't go in there and just go for a walk. No, I couldn't. I'd feel guilty. Too many people in there. One person on the run, actually, one guy was running past, I think we were about 12K in. He was like, oh, I love the podcast. Tried to give him a high five, missed completely. Because I forget people might say something, you know, and then I just made a disaster of it. So again, to you, thanks for listening. Thanks for spotting, and well done on getting your run in this morning.
Absolutely. Well, fair play. One last thing before we move on, I got to ask, because you're 80K in, and in 1 week, you've got 3 weeks to Barcelona. You've got another race coming up next week. How are you fixed? How are you feeling right now? Should Monroe be a little bit worried about his beers?
No. I was only able to hold the pace that I was required to win beer for 8K, never mind 42. But no, I think will there be a taper? No, not really. As in, I'm not going to be doing 30K. That's just not going to happen. But the mileage will be up to just so. The way it's looking for me, my heart rate even on today's run at a 6 minute 5:55 was only 130, 135, majorly helped by how cold it is. But no drift really until we got to 18K, and we upped it then to a 5 minute pace. So my last 3 to 4K was at a 5:10, 5 minute. So will I have that for 42? Absolutely no way. Not a chance. But it's just nice to see, because the first 20K I did, I couldn't walk after my hip flexors. The body wasn't used to anything over 9K, or because my heart rate would be at 190 and I'd have to stop, you know. Whereas now the heart isn't the problem. It's the rest of the body, the calves, the groin and everything else. So, but it's catching up. It's really catching up. Like it's a couple of hours since I've done the run. I feel really good now. I'm not running tomorrow, and that hurts me. So we spoke 4 weeks ago about not loving the journey. It's starting to creep back. It's starting. Katie's beat me in every race, and everyone keeps abusing me about it. So I think this could be our last one. I told her there on the run.
I can't handle it.
I was feeling really strong again. I was like, uh-oh. I think you're in trouble. So, but yeah, no, it's good. It's good to. I'm falling in love with it again. Like tomorrow we have to go do things, and we're going up to Leitrim and this, that, and the other. But I'm kind of like, I'd love to go do an 8K in the forest. I'm at that point now again, which is really, really good. Yeah, so it's starting to come, and it's majorly helped by the amount of people out running and the fact we run a podcast. So it's really, really good.
New year, new me. So I'm making new things happen right now. After my run, I must have an ultra pure Epsom salts bath, rich in pseudo magnesium, and feels great after a long session. Oh, but you need to run first. So I know you're going with that, Eric. And when my muscles ache, I haven't got time for a bath like you. So I'm having their ice cold menthol gel, instant cooling relief, and it helps me get ready for the next one. Yeah, but I could have that, but if I'm on the go, I also want to have the essential oil muscle rub on as well. I know where you rub that on. Stop it. I know you're going to go with that. I know you're going to go with that. So stop it right now. So I'm going straight to the finish. Exactly. New year, new goals, and muscle recovery support that works. And it actually is really good for you, despite what I'm saying here. But I'm not handing you abuse me in 2026. So do your little outro you normally do.
It's like you're in my head, but by listening to this advert, you are supporting this Irish podcast and Irish businesses. Do take a look at the Ultra Pure range online and this great value bundle and save 10% on ultrapurelabs.ie.
Yeah, well, switching gears a little bit too, we talk about races there and conditions and stuff like that. One of the toughest races in the world and conditions happened over the past weekend, or 2 weekends ago, I think it was. It all rolls into one for me, was the Barkley Marathons. I think it was on the same time as Dundee. And that happened.
Saying nobody finished this year.
Nobody finished this year. It was one. Wow. So I was reading up a little bit on it. So seemingly it wasn't that bad at base camp, whatever they call it. It's like a minimum crew and all there. But like as soon as they left base camp, like conditions completely plummeted. Like it was just, I read 50-mile-an-hour winds, minus, am I right? Minus 5, minus 10 degrees and stuff like that. And basically it is 5 marathons pretty much. And I don't know the exact term of time, but I know it's like clockwise, one way, anti-clockwise. And there's a lot of navigation involved, and you have to find certain books and pages and all the rest. And the route changes every year. And we don't know a lot about it, and we haven't been able to talk about it too much. But thanks to today's guest in the podcast, we get to talk about this a little bit more. And you probably hear it was recorded before the Barkley Marathons just happened. But our guest in the podcast actually did it a couple of years ago.
Yeah, this is one that puts everything I have just said for the last 15 minutes to shame. But Eoin is with us this week, and the stuff that this man has done in terms of endurance and in terms of ultras and in terms of running is absolutely amazing. This is another great episode for all of us feeling sorry for ourselves after a shuffle on the weekend, to see how far we can actually go when we push ourselves. And a great episode from a very humble athlete. Another one for everyone to sit back, listen and enjoy.
And with that said, it's this week's episode of the Any Given Run Day podcast. Let's go! Our next guest on the Any Given Run Day podcast. Well, if I listed all his ultra running accomplishments, we wouldn't have time to talk to the man. But here's a few. Multiple time winner of the Spine Race and Irish 24-hour running championships, and Arthur O'Neill, multiple time winner, had the Irish 24-hour record for distance, as well as having the 48-hour 349 kilometres and 6 days at 815 kilometres. Set a world record for missing to Maidenhead. I'm nearly done. 4-time winner of Athletics Ireland's Ultra Runner of the Year, and has a CV so good he was the first Irishman ever invited to the Barkley Marathons. Eoin Keith, welcome to this week's episode of the Any Given Run Day podcast. How are you getting on?
I'm good, and it's great to finally be here.
Eoin, I have to say, Sean usually butchers an intro for people, but I think for you, he did it the credit he deserved. What a CV you have. That's impressive. What are you running from? Who do you owe money to? What's going on?
Yeah, that's a good question. We're running from reality, I suppose.
I think a lot of people who listen and we follow the same format. It's easy to see the accomplishments, but not everyone knows where everyone starts. For you to go to this supreme ultra runner and highly accomplished, where did the sport and how did you get into sport, running? Where did it all start for you?
Yeah, it's a bit of a bizarre story, to be honest, and it could take a while in itself. My first sport, really, because as a kid, I was crap at sport. And, in school, all the running races are sprints. So a good day for me would have been second last, because I, believe it, obviously enough, being so good at ultra long distances, the other side of the coin is I'm a crap sprinter. And this really shows. And of course, all the ball sports are our sprinty sports. And I grew up in Cove, County Cork, which is a multi-sports town, and plenty of options. And I was pretty crap at nearly all of them. And, in school, I would have been in the, there'd have been the serious lads and the send the other lads off into the corner to mess around, and I was, always in the corner messing around group. But off my own bat, I discovered with a few friends of mine pitch and putt. So that was actually my first sport, which I took seriously, and that was my teenage years. And I got very into that, and what I enjoyed about that in particular was the competitive side of it. And yeah, that I was really able to take out my competitive instincts on that. And I had a great time doing that. And as I say, it was many years doing it and really enjoyed it. And then when I got to college, that kind of dropped away. But I had friends who were into scouting and things like that, and fellow co-friends. And one of my fellow co-friends became captain of the UCC Mountaineers, where I went to college. And himself and one of my friends from my own class, computer science. Again, I was a proper nerd all the way, non-sporty nerd. And they kind of forced me into a position one day where I had to go hill walking with them because I was visiting them up in Dublin. And it was like, you're coming with us or you're spending the weekend in the house on your own. Which do you want to do? And so they dragged me out into the hills around Glendalough, and it was a big revelation, dropped into this entirely new world to me. And I fell quickly in love with it, and it happened to be a snowy day and the weather was quite stark. So that was even better, the contrast between that and sitting in front of a computer, which I enjoy greatly, but it's some contrast, So on from there then, through them I met more people and who were into things like more hill walking. So I started doing, walking all around the hills of Ireland, and got into mountaineering through a similar group of people. We carried on doing that and ended up making a few trips to the Alps, doing an alpine climbing course. So had a reasonable mountaineering background as a result. And then a few of them were doing mountain marathons, like the Mourne Mountain Marathon, and the other ones that one or two that used to exist down south at the same time as well. There was the Canaria was the first one I did, and I got dragged into that as well. I kind of said, well, if your ex-girlfriend isn't going to do it with you, I'll do it. And then the ex-girlfriend didn't do it, so I got dragged in. And I remember doing what was, in some ways my first running race, and heading off for the first control, running with my good friend from Cove, Pat Kidney, and he was apparently thinking, "Oh, this is great, I'm loving it," and I was running behind him, going, "Oh my God, this is awful," But in the end, we did reasonably okay. We were in third position, come to the last control, made a complete mess of the last control, ended up fourth, and we both had the same attitude, which was, right, we got to come back next year and put this to rights and actually get on the podium. And that sort of competitive side of hill walking, the mountain marathons became my highlight of the year, and I started doing more and more of those, to the extent where I had to stop doing the Mourne Mountain Marathon because I was remembering where all the controls were, because I have a good head for location, and if I've been somewhere once before I usually remember it. So they'd call out the control, I'd mark it on map, I said, oh yeah, that's where we did 3 years ago when the time blah. And so the same bunch of people, there are four of them, my mountaineering / mountain marathon friends. 3 of them were doing the Dublin City Marathon in 1998, and as was becoming the house style, I decided to volunteer myself in to join them, because they were a good bunch of lads, and I was always impressed with them and wanted to give a go at what they were doing. So I can remember that our last long run before the marathon was probably the day I discovered I could run, because we were doing a 20K or something like that, 20 miler, I think it was, in the Phoenix Park, 2 laps of the park, and the car was parked somewhere up the middle, and as we were coming to the end of the 2 laps for the last sort of 300 or 400 meter run up the middle of the road to get to the parked car, I thought I was feeling great, so I decided I'd sprint for it, and one of them had a good sense to let me go. Two of them tried to compete, and I dropped them both. And that's when I realized, okay, I think I can actually do these long runs quite well. So I adjusted my targets for Dublin and ran 2:57 as my first proper running race. So yeah, that to me is my start of my running, and from there it was just sort of find longer things to do until I find the upper limits, which has yet to happen.
When you look at, because a lot of people, and you have kind of alluded to it, mountain marathons and the element of running, you kind of fell in love with it. Most people start running and hate it instantly, and can never get over the 5K element, and this is disgusting, and this is this. Education around running probably wasn't as strong as it is now in terms of general population. You kind of had to be involved in a club and coaches to get to the snippets that we take as easy and everyone should know type things. What was your initial thoughts? Because this is a new year as well. People are probably got the first entry, a lot of first timers into Dublin. I'm taking you back 26, 7 years to go. The first 5K from being mountaineering, and it's fantastic. You've strong, your back is strong from getting up and down the hills. You've a great, I suppose, musculoskeletal base, as in you have a strong body. How was it transitioning to the running and the road and no real view or a mountain, or how was that?
Hydration is key to fueling endurance performance.
Perform Nutrition's Electrolytes Plus sachets have been specifically designed to fill the need for advanced hydration for athletes.
With 1,000 milligrams sodium, all essential electrolytes, and 2,500 milligram performance blend made up of glutamine, taurine, and coconut water powder, one sachet will replenish and revitalize your hydration.
Using natural flavors, natural colors, no added sugar, and no added fillers, each sachet has a sweet and lightly salted fruity flavor and comes in either mixed berry or citrus.
Informed, sport tested and trusted by Olympians such as Kate O'Connor, world champion boxer Aoife O'Rourke, and pro triathlete Nikki Bartlett, and many more elite athletes.
Trust Perform to fuel your excellence, and by listening to this advert, you are supporting Irish businesses and this podcast. Now let's get back to the episode.
Yeah, again, it was liking it, I suppose, was the key. I enjoyed the training, so I enjoyed going out for a run. I remember a friend of my girlfriend at the time said she drove past some runner and she could just see this big smiley head in him, and then she had a good look and saw it was me. It's like, that was just me running along the road, basically. So yeah, I tended to be a happy runner, and that helps. And I had no structured training at all, but you're dead right that the background of the hill walking and the mountaineering meant that I had a good strong neuromuscular system and probably a decent starting point for aerobics as well, although running is not, no amount of walking will prepare you for running. That's going to hurt no matter what you do, and it's supposed to hurt. That's the thing, but the right kind of hurt. There's very different kinds of pain, and there's the building strength hurt versus the stop doing that hurt. And so yeah, I was just enjoying the process, and without having any structure, without having a coach or being too worried about it, I was just taking it as it comes, really. And in a lot of it, and for most of my career, I've been making it up as I go along and just increasing the amount of knowledge bit by bit as I go. But I've never actually been coached, and I was quite late joining clubs as well. I would encourage people to join clubs though, because they're great. And there's an awful lot you get out of them. You always get out more than you usually get out a lot more than you expect. I was lucky that I got away with it, and I think that's down to natural ability, quite frankly. And there's no two ways around that. It's the old Seb Coe thing. What's the key to being an Olympic champion? It's choosing your parents very carefully. Natural ability, unfortunately, is probably the number one criteria. And I will not bullshit by saying, oh, it was all the hard work, blah, 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 I put in. I'm just lucky. that I have this. Happened to find a sport that I was naturally good at. Luckily, I didn't want to be a sprinter because otherwise I'd have had a miserable life. So, it just so happens that the sports I was falling in and liking, I turned out to be naturally good at, and it is quite a big key. You add in the hard work and you get better at it, but the natural ability helps a long way, that's for sure. I hope that answered the question.
Absolutely. You said then when you got that 2:57 marathon, and some people were thinking, I want to go faster than this, but you wanted to go longer.
Well, it was a bit of both.
Okay.
Because I did want to go faster, and I ended up in the end doing 7 conventional marathons, as I call them, 5 on the road. And they're an interesting story in their own right, in that I have a fastest marathon, a best marathon, and a best result, and they're all different. Because my fastest marathon was, I did 3 Dublins, and the last one I did in 2:41, which is my PB. And it's hard work getting from 2:57 down to 2:41. And the next big target is 2:30. And I was just thinking, yeah, I can probably get there, but do I want to get there? And, in the end, 2:30 marathon is a kind of so what position. It's good, but it's not going to, it's nowhere near. Yeah, exactly. It's nowhere near, being a really good marathon runner. It just makes you a pretty good marathon runner. Whereas I was actually far more interested in exploring out the distance anyway. But, speed's a huge benefit. And then my best marathon my best marathon was Snowdon, which I did. I think about 4 years afterwards or something like that, and because that's got 1,000 meters of climb and descent in it, and I did that at the time. My PB was 2:48, and I did Snowdon in 2:52. So that was definitely, relative terms, that was the best performance once you allow for that height thing. Because I went from there was a hill at about mile 23, and I went from 11th to 5th on that hill, which is a lot of places to get at the top end of a marathon in one mile or so, and that's all down to the hill ability.
Was that a significant, or your first? Obviously, you'd been on the mountain, so you can walk up them, but to take that road kind of game and go, well, I can do the maths is I can do 2:41 over Dublin. And to do that over that kind of elevation, was that the first inkling to you that, hold on a minute, I'm actually, the hillier it is, the stronger I am, and that's probably where I need to be?
It was part of it. The bigger one was probably, at the time, there was only one ultra marathon in Ireland, which is what's now the Morris Mullins, and what was then the Wicklow 50k, because it was run by Morris back in those days. And yeah, I did. Because I can remember as a hill walker myself and my friend Pat looking at people starting out on the Morris Mullins from a hill opposite and saying, those mad Egypts, what are they doing? Why would anyone do that? And then, of course, a few years later, I'm the mad Egypt doing exactly that. So, and that was my first inkling of being a good ultra runner over hills, because the first time I entered it, it was kind of a 4-way battle for the win, and I came, again, similar story, I came 4th of those 4, but being part of the battle was the key and was what was throwing me in that, this is great fun, first of all, but clearly I'm good at this as well, and obviously if you're good at it, you enjoy it all the more, and that was another one where I was keep coming back until first of all winning it and then breaking the record, and because it was a hell of a target record, which took me a lot of banging away with it until I got to it, and I still count my setting the record on the original course of that as being possibly my best single record, even though it's quite an obscure one, because it's locked away now. It'll never be beaten, and ended up being 9. I did 3:21, which beat an old 3:30 record, which over that kind of distance is fairly shifting, and I did it finishing thinking I could do a second lap here at the same speed and be fine. It was just one of those days where everything runs perfectly and you're just in top form the whole way. And yeah, so one of those ideal days. So that race was probably the one where I started realizing that, I had a good ability. And on the basis of doing well at that, I got picked up for my first Irish Vest for 100k on the flat, which was up in Edinburgh in the Anglo-Celtic Plate. And that was another big learning one, because I ran that, and this is way back in the days before you'd get any of us were running with timing devices, which would take intervals or anything like that. If you wanted to split, you took it yourself with pen and paper or whatever, or had someone else do it for you. And that race had splits because it was lapped. And I was kind of disgusted with myself at the end of the race because I'd been doing 16-minute laps for the first 50k and 18-minute laps for the second 50k, and I wasn't happy about the fact that I'd lost that 2 minute in the laps. But I went around and they put up everyone's intervals who had taken part in a big sports hall where the prize giving was. And I went around and looked at everyone's lap times afterwards and realised I had the smallest fall off of anyone in the entire race and the most consistent pacing. And that was one of the things that made me realise even when I'd gotten it wrong, I was still performing better than we're actually in an international athlete field in terms of pacing. And to this day, I'd count pacing as one of my natural kind of superpowers, if you know what I mean, that I can pace things really well. And it is actually a big key to getting good results over any distance is get your pacing right, you know.
Have you ever met the wall? Because I have. I've been there. I've leaned against it. I've got sick against it. Everything against this wall. Is it something that, based on, as you said, the natural superpower, or has there been a point in this journey up to this point that you've gone, uh-oh, or maybe that race was, I think I made a mistake here because I dropped off by 2 minutes? Is that your definition of the wall?
No. I have had, I mean, even one of my most recent races, the Tour de last year in September, I was at one aid station for well over 12 hours because I had come to a crashing halt. Now, it's not what you'd call conventionally hitting the wall, but it's hitting a wall, that's for sure. In that I'd lost the ability to breathe, basically.
Oh,
I'd had some kind of chest issue going on, and I wasn't the only one, but I was going pretty well coming into this aid station, stopped at the aid station. Then once I got going, I was just could barely move, and it was like sitting on the trail, stopped completely wondering, do I go on and crawl, or do I, spend 10 minutes sitting there, sorry for myself, trying to figure out what to do, wandered back to the aid station. I knew that I had friends coming behind. I said, I'll go up for sleep, wait for them, see if I can go out with them. Did that. Same thing happened, went back. One more friend came, went out with him. Same thing happened, went back. Pretty much had given up, and then looked at my watch and realised, okay, I've got enough time. Just if I leave now and I do okay, I might make the next cutoff where they'll chuck me out of the race. So I just said, okay, I'll get up, give it a go, and see what happens. And I made that cutoff and kept going. So, but yeah, that was hitting a wall in a big way, and I stopped for
he couldn't breathe for someone who has course record after course record after world record after the Irish record here and there, and you can't breathe for a segment. Are you not worried about, like, not this is the end of the race, but this is the end?
I was worried that I might have pneumonia. That's what it felt like. So I was, and that's why I was, backing off every time, because there's no point trying to push through something like that. So, but then once it felt not quite as bad and good enough that I could run, then I went for it. But that's not the first time. The previous time I did Tour de Glaciers, which is an absolutely tremendous race. And last year was one of my favorite race experiences of all time, the way it went. And but the previous time I'd done it 2 years ago, not the similar thing happened where I ended up in one aid station and I'd made a few navigational issues beforehand, which had probably got to me a little mentally, and then it was a hot day and I got quite exhausted, and a relatively flat section, which was relatively boring, took us into an aid station, and it just all accumulated up so that I ended up saying, okay, I'm taking a 4-hour break there. Got up after when they woke me up and said, no, not entirely right. I'll take another 2 hours. What the hell? Got up after those 2 hours and saw it was raining and said, when's it due to stop raining? They said just before dawn or something like that. I said, okay, get me up when that happens. In for a penny, in for a pound. So there's another place where I spent pretty much 12 hours. So I went in just before I had to put the head torch on. And as I left, I turned the head torch off 5 minutes after I left. So it was a complete night at an aid station. So yeah, these things happen. But, the great thing about big, long multi-day races like that is you can often have time to recover. And, you're better off using that time, rather than just quitting.
When you have the likes of the 100k race and the Irish bib for the first time, and did that conflict you in terms of ultra, road, flat versus hills, or was it, how can I manage to complement the two and still get that feeling of a green bib and the Anglo Irish?
It was never a conflict. To me, it was always complementary. One was helping the other. And I was very happy straddling the two worlds because very few people do both of them. Even internationally, there's not that many people are happy running both the looped flat ultras and the trail ultras, and you get very different things out of both of them, and they take certainly take a different kind of mindset in terms of both of them. But being able to do it all is hugely advantageous. Because, you can run into obstacles in one that the other will have taught you how to deal with. Like bad weather in a flat ultra can frazzle a lot of people if it starts heavily raining, whereas if you're a trail runner, that's standard issue. You know exactly what you're doing there. Likewise, if you come to a long flat section on a trail race, a lot of people can go to pieces mentally, whereas, it's like, it's like a 24-hour run, but not quite as bad. So, on you go. So no, it was never a conflict. And I greatly enjoyed both, and when I was good at both, I was definitely getting as much out of either in different ways, but, there's a lot to get out of it. Funny enough, most people would assume that the trail stuff is harder. You can be out there responsible for your own life and safety and navigation and gear, etc., very isolated out in the middle of nowhere. I always enjoyed that and was kind of exhilarated by it. And I would say actually the harder one is actually, being on a flat loop for 24 hours, to take the extreme version, a 500-meter loop indoors, for 6 days. I call that one the prison in my own head, because there's a big mental challenge there, obviously, and to me that's actually kind of the harder one, because you have no choice but to keep going when you're out in the wilds, and the aid stations are obvious places to get to and targets, whereas when you're doing the looped, you make your own targets, and you have to make your own targets. And, the motivation, if you want to walk off, you can do it any time. It's easy, you just literally walk off.
When you try, you got to go to the spot.
Yeah, it's in a lot of ways, the easy ones are the harder ones, and the harder ones are easy.
In this 6-day one, is that the one you did in 2015? You're talking about, was that a 500-meter loop where you finished second in the 6-day World Trophy in
that was about a 900-meter loop. That was in Hungary. So I've done 3 of them. The first one I did was in New York, which was exactly 1 mile loop. And I won that one, and which was great because it's quite a historic race. And so I was really delighted to win that one, because I'd heard so much about it. And to have my first go to 6-day and win it was outstanding. And I made one big mistake there, which was that I pulled out after I reached 500 miles because I knew I had it won. And I just have had the proclaimers quoted at me for months afterwards. And it's like, oh, God, I should have just done 1 more mile. Yeah. But But that was great. And then I did Hungary a year or two later, I think it was. And yeah, that was a better performance, 16K, a little more beyond 500.
Jeez.
And Joe Fages was at that one. And he's someone, my first multi-day flat race, I'd met Joe for the first time, which was in a 3-day race in Arizona called Across the Years, because it literally, you start in one year and finish in another. And Joe had won it the year before. And I'd heard about it from Tony Mangan, and because Tony had done well there, he'd come second. And I went and scared the bejesus out of Joe Fages, and because he wasn't expecting, he didn't know anything about me, and we had a most fun race against each other, and we ended up having a massive all-out sprint on the last day of a 3-day race to kind of sort, because he was following me, because he knew if he stuck behind me, he'd hold his lead, and I took the attitude, well, if you're going to give me control of pacing, I'm going to fuck around with you. Pardon my French. So I did, because I had nothing to lose. So we ended up doing these mad sprinty stuff, and I was just trying to break him. Yeah, but in the end, I broke first. But we both enjoyed it so much that we were very, very happy. So I became one of the fourth person to do 300 miles in that race, and I'm the only one there not to win it. And the other two, Joe obviously did 300 miles to beat me. He did more, and the other two were Yanis Kouros, who's the greatest ultra runner of all time, and John. And John is a multiple-time American champion. Anyway, so I was up there with the greats, which looks great in paper. And then, New York was doubling it up to 6 days, which is a much more classic distance. And it's one of the 24, 48, 6. They're the classic flat distances, really. And so 6 was the big target of mine because it's the longest. And that was the only time I've ever entered a short race, in that there were 2 races running in parallel. There was a 6-day and a 10-day. And that's the only time I've not taken the longest option, just as I wanted to do 6 days because it's classic distance.
I can't imagine anyone begrudging you that now.
Yeah, I know. It's a sprint race of 6 days. So that, and then Hungary, as you say, was the world champ. So to get in second in that was good, and that I think still stands the Irish record, the 8:15 or 8:16 I did on that.
Jeez.
And I did a third one there 2 or 3 years ago indoors in goes around an ice rink in Milwaukee, and that was far more interesting than I thought it was. I thought it'd be torturous, but it was actually oddly entertaining going indoors for 6 days around an ice rink. Well, I only lasted 5 because I managed to give myself an injury, but I still won the male race, so that was that kept the record of that intact anyway.
Ian, can I ask you a little bit about a 6-day race? Because I'm listening, and Sean has done 24-hour races, so he has a brief understanding, but how do you prepare? How do you strategize? What equipment do you accept, especially when you talk about racing these greats? Does sometimes the preparation go out the window and you're like, forget about sleep, this is war? How do you plan a race, strategize something over that length of time?
Oh yeah, well, the ability to improvise and make up your strategy on the fly is absolutely key for almost any ultra. Because no plan is going to survive contact with reality. It's the old Mike Tyson thing as usual. It's all very well till you get punched in the mouth, and these things give you a good old whack in the mouth every bloody time. So there's hardly a flat looped race. I can't remember any flat looped race where I haven't found myself in the middle of it thinking, why am I doing this? I'm never doing one of these things again. I think every single time that thought has come in, it doesn't happen as much at all in the mountain runs, but it always seems to happen in the flat ones. But they have their rewards when you get through them in the end. And then you forget all the pain, not long after. So you have strategies, you have plans, like I'll have multiple sets of shoes for a 6-day, and there'll be different types of shoes on different lasts so that different parts of the feet will get different impact, multiple pairs of socks for similar reasons, just all these things about taking care of yourself and protecting yourself, particularly when you go multi-day, it's all about protecting yourself from injuries and strain, etc., etc. And that's the prime thing. You're not going to go out there with fast sprinting shoes. You're going to go out there with the shoes that are going to make your feet survive the longest. And sleeve strategy, I'd have an idea what I wanted to do. The longer the race, the longer the sleep you need per day. So, short race, you might need any. Once it goes to about 48 hours, then you're going to need sleep. If I can make it to 48, the longest I've gone without sleep is 54 hours, and that was not deliberate. I wasn't able to sleep in the last 8 stations because the winds were so strong. Sleep was impossible, so I ended up having to run through a full race of 54 hours. My head was all over the place with sleep deprivation through that night. But so, yeah, and then for a 6-day race, I'll be strategizing, at least 2 hours sleep per day. But, the advantage of the looped race is you can do that on feel. And particularly with an indoor one where you're not dealing so much with day and night, you can really do it on feel. But usually it's circadian rhythms will take care of the sleep for you, especially if you're out in the trails. I'll be very conscious of when the sun's going to go down. And because when the sun goes down in the second night, that's when the sleep heebie-jeebies usually start to hit me. So I'll want to get ahead of that game, because I've been out there horribly sleep deprived when you can't stop or do anything about it because the weather's so bad and it'd be so dangerous to stop. That's torture. Sleep deprivation is literally the most effective form of torture. So this is what we're doing to ourselves and paying good money for. So I want to avoid that very much so, because I'm doing it for pleasure. I don't want to torture myself. So these days I'm still learning all the time. One of the great things about ultra running is I'm 26 years at it, and I'm still learning all the time about how to do things better, and I love that about it. And sleep is part of that. I'm a lot better at it now. It's a long time since I've had bad sleep deprivation, but I'm still working on it. It's still something I have to consciously think about and strategize about. Every race is a different strategy, because you feel different. So you won't feel the same way twice in 2 different races. Again, that's a great thing.
Do you ever take a lie on a Saturday, or?
Oh God, yeah. Absolutely.
I find it hard to get out of a warm, cozy bed, to go for a run. On the side of the track, on the side of everything, do you have support there to be like, Ian, it's time to get up, it's time to... Or how do you motivate yourself? Or is it the race feeling that you're lucid sleep, you get some rest, you get up, and then you go? Yeah.
The easiest time for me to get up and run is during a race. Yeah. Normal Saturdays, very hard for me to get up. I'll take a long time getting up, and all it takes. But race is one of the only times I'll the alarm will go off, I'll pop out ready, most of the time, start of the race, I'll pop out, ready to go, bang. It takes a lot more effort in the middle of the race, because especially, when you're sleep deprived going in, and you go out in seconds and you sleep like the dead, and then someone kindly wakes you up, taking their life in their hands, and it's like you're usually being pulled out of this lovely, fluffy, happy place into a horrific, dark, nasty environment. It's like, oh God, I'm still in the middle of a race and I have to get up and get out of this. And because restarting is torture always, and so. Minimizing restarts has always been a target for that reason, because they're so bloody hard, But again, it's down to individuals.
Do you train yourself for this in any which way, or is it just because sleep deprivation? Don't want to hit that at any stage. Can you even how do you run during the night and stuff like that in your training leading up to these races, or how do you do it?
No, I mean, I used to do a lot of adventure racing, and we used to do some training for that, as in, do long overnight stints and things like that. And I can actually remember literally sleepwalking in one of those training stints. But it's the theory is not really
right.
It's not something you can train for. And I often disagree with a lot of theory about what's doable and what's not doable. There's an awful lot of conventional running theory I would argue is completely wrong. But that one, I would say, that's probably correct. You can't train yourself for sleep deprivation. You can train yourself to get to sleep faster and have better sleep. But I'm not sure you can train yourself to deal with sleep deprivation.
is a lot of the theory out there now on marathons and maybe even 100k, and then there's very little afterward. They just in their mind they go, oh, times that by 7 and it must be the same thing, and it goes the conventional path that way. But just so many external factors I can only imagine comes into it when you're actually getting to days you're running.
Yeah, and there's very little theory out there, absolutely. Very little useful theory or experiment, because it's a very hard thing to run a useful scientific experiment on. So generally all there is in terms of sports science is feedback that people have provided and statistics on the basis of that. And that's anecdotes. That's a collection of anecdotes. It's not scientific theory. So again, part of the beauty of it, if you like me, and I come from a science background and have always been curious about how the world works, etc., and I question everything when it comes to theory, and the answers I tend to get tend to be minority answers. So, and I encourage people to do that as much as possible. Ignore the theory, because most of it's wrong. And most of it has very little basis on good scientific fact. I mean, some does, but a lot of what you hear as gospel is rubbish. Like when I started running, the big thing was, you have to stretch before you run. It's it's the most important thing. And now that's completely thrown on its head. It's like that stretching before you run is more likely to injure you. So that's an example of where old theory got questioned and it's thrown out. And so when it comes to multi-days, you're basically making it up as you go along. And one good thing I've heard is on a very knowledgeable ultra running list on the web is if you ask 10 ultra runners about what's the best way to train for a 6-day race, you get 14 different answers. That's about the size of it. And they'll all be right, and they'll all be there is no right way. There's one or two fundamental things, like you've just got to do a lot of volume, and you should mix in the 80-20 rule has got an awful lot of good science backing behind it. Beyond that, not a lot. People are basically making it up as go along. For years, I used to say to myself, next year, I'm going to do proper structured training with a actual real plan. I'll do that next year and see how good I am. And it never really happened. And I eventually realized, because it's far less important than actually most people think. Once you got the basics right, and you are doing most of your runs easy, some of them hard, that covers it. The rest is details.
I have to ask, and you've probably been asked this so many times since you did it. I read that doing research on this, your favourite place to run in one of them was the Frozen Head State Park, the Barkley Marathons. For those that don't know, why are the Barkley Marathons what they are? The race that eats its young, I've heard they've been called. Yeah,
that's its tagline. It's the hardest running race in the world. That's what people say, and from my experience, it is absolutely. You go into it, only 40 people get picked to do it every year. The mysterious entry process is a challenge in itself. There are about 2,000 or so people, I think, manage to figure it out per year, and then 40 get picked. And those 40 tend to be incredible people, and it's just a great place to be hanging around with those people. And their one allowed crew person, and then the race crew, Laz himself, is just... There's only one or two people I've been tongue-tied around when I first met them. Laz was one of them, because he's quite intimidating. But despite being an extremely nice person, it's Laz. Oh my God. Because he's sharp as nails, So if you say something stupid, he'll know. But it's such a hard race, and it's deliberately designed to be just on the edge of what a human being can do, the 5 laps in 60 hours. And if someone completes it, then they'll make it a little harder the next year, and so on. So the idea is to keep it just on the edge of what a human can do, and that's why it's so hard. And you do have the best people coming to try and do it, and failing miserably. We all go in, I'm sure, thinking, I mean, how hard can it be? I've done this, that. I'm good at this. I'm good at that. How hard can it be? And the answer is, bloody hard, actually. Yeah. The first lap I did was probably the most mentally intense 9 or 10 hours of my life, because the navigation aspect of it is intense. It's harder than orienteering because you have to be on the course the whole time. Orienteering, you just have to hit the controls. So, you're navigating 100% all the time. And I knew that I had to be able to find the same route backwards in the dark. So I was whilst navigating, trying to remember how to do this backwards, because I knew I'd need it for the next lap. And that was just a very intense 9 hours, the most intense mentally I think I've ever had, and I loved it as a result. And then the reverse lap, I broke my collarbone, so that didn't help. So I did most of that lap with a broken collarbone, but I did it in great company, so that made it an absolute laugh. But what I discovered on the reverse lap is that the difficulty when you get the nav right is that the up and down is just so relentless. It's extreme. It's just steep up, steep down, steep up, steep down. And there's no hiding and no escape. So something will get you. A friend of mine, who I actually met in the 6-day race in Hungary, he was Joe Fage's support guy, and he's one of the Barclay organising team, as it turned out. I didn't realise it at the time, but I fell in with the right crowd. And he says that to do the Barclay, you need every tool in the toolbox. If you're missing one, you're no chance. You need everything. And that's conventional things like speed. Ability to climb and descend, plus navigation, plus mountain craft, and this is why the likes of Jasmine Paris is so much better than Courtney Dowwater in Barkley. Courtney is the much better Courtney is the greatest ever conventional trail runner, but she's only I think completed 2 laps in the Barkley. Whereas Jasmine, it would be a slower runner, but she's much more has the mountain craft and the navigational skills and all those other extra tools in the toolbox that would be the Courtney's relatively weakness in this case, but only in this case. So it's a very interesting race on those grounds. The fastest guy who was there the first year I did it was, I think he was an ex-100K world champion, and he didn't get remotely close to getting the first lap because, despite being the fastest guy there.
Ian, can I ask for the numbers? Because understanding how you take on the race, 100% understand, but what does the end of that race look like in terms of the numbers, to give us an insight into why it is on the edge of what's humanly possible?
I think I can't remember the exact numbers, but something like 30 years of it running now, there's a total of 21 people have finished, and about 6 of those has been in the last 2 or 3 years. And for many, many years there was no finishers, and a good year would be 1 finisher. And we're back to 0 finishers by a long shot last year. So it's just, and again, these are not chump runners. These are, some of the best runners in the world, people who set records, FKTs for the Appalachian Trail, FKTs all over the place, international champions at all sorts of levels. The winners of the the easiest way to get in is to win the big dog's backyard ultra. That's an auto entry. And he doesn't get close to finishing either. So that'll tell you, so you never know where win is going to come from, because it takes that combination of skills and luck and helpful weather.
You said you met Laz, and he's a very nice lad, but when the 3 people, I think Jasmine Parks finished it, maybe in my head it's last year, the year before, and then I seen all the comments being like, oh, no one's finishing next year. It was almost like he was annoyed 3 people finished, and then it was that hard that no one finished. Is that the way it really is?
If someone finishes, he will make it harder, absolutely, yeah. And I think, though, word on the street is that they kind of overdid it last year and made it just a bit too. They ramped it up too hard. They'll probably soften it slightly next year, would be my guess. But it's all guesswork with the Barkley. You know, I've got some inside knowledge, but still, it's all guesswork if you're not Laz.
You broke your collarbone when you did that, and I was looking. Am I right in saying the following month you set a course record in the Northern Transverse? And it was like 4 different one of them.
That sounds right. Yeah.
Unbelievable. How do these kind of races compare to your Northern Transverse, your spine races and stuff? Not compared to Barclays, that they're their own thing, but just in their own. If someone's listening, going, you know, I may have, not me, but I may have done Arthur O'Neill over the weekend, and I want to go maybe over, you know, across the sea to try one of these other kind of trail runs. What are these races like?
The thing with any of these races is, you know, they're all just there. The key to completing them is just to want to do them. You know, it is that simple, you know, and then people ask me, what does it take? It just takes a desire. You know, there's no magic. There's no magic distance. There's no magic hardness, apart from the Barclay, maybe. You know, everything is just there, and, you know, just give it a go. I always say the best thing you can do for any race is to give it a go, because the worst thing that happens is you don't finish, but you learn so much that then if you go again, you're far more likely to finish than if you just sit around theorizing about it or doing theoretical training. And the best thing you can do is just go do it. And as I get older, that's become even more so for me, because, you know, every year I'm a little bit slower, and 1 year less opportunities to do things. So now I'm in an even bigger hurry. So if I think about it and I want to do it, I'll just go and do it. And that's the right attitude, I think, for any event. And there's nobody who's not capable of giving one of these things a go, you know. As you know, if you want to win it, it's a totally different thing. But if you just want to go out there and experience it, just go do it. You know, it's that simple. And I always encourage everyone to do it. A lot of these, the likes of the Northern Traverse is timed so it can be walked. So, you know, if you walk at speed, you will finish it. Similarly, the spine, you know, you can do a lot of that at walking pace and get around and finishing it. Although they just cut a couple of hours off the cutoffs for next year. I just read literally an hour ago. So, but yeah, a lot of these things, you know, they're journeys. They're exploring, and the key now, if you're not out there to win, the key is to enjoy the journey, and that's it. So just go do it, you know. So for me, the bigger they are, they're not intimidating. It's more worth the journey. It's more worth the flights to get there and do it. You're going to get multiple days out of it, you know. So yeah.
Does that excite you more? Or, you know, I've seen you've done, like, for example, the fastest known time across up the country, going from Mizen to Mallinhead.
Yeah.
Are you looking at those kind of things now, or are you looking at what's the next kind of race I haven't done in terms of navigation? Or do you like going, right, I've set a time here, I need to beat that time again? What excites you more?
Well, I'm getting slower, and there's no two ways about it. I'm 57 now, and I think at about 52 to 53, that's where the brakes came on, and I don't think I'll ever podium in a race again. So it's just a matter of accepting that and changing how I enjoy the races. So it's kind of pressure off for me, is in I get to go around saying, "Oh, I'm just an old man," you know. So I'm just out here.
You can't lose to me.
Oh, but I would. Believe me, it's terrible what's happened to my speed. You know, my endurance is everything is holding up except speed. So you know, but that obviously is quite fundamental to competing. So now I get totally. I now look to get totally different things out of it. So yeah, I'm looking for enjoyable races to do. That would be a great experience to take part in, and see new parts of the world, that kind of thing. That excites me more, and that's why and in the last few years I've been far more the trail ultras and a lot less of the flat looped ones, because most of the flat looped ones are all the same. Now, that doesn't mean I'm not still engaged with the flat loop ones. I actually help organise a global organisation of multi-day ultra runners, which is a new body to kind of put some kind of structure on multi-day governance. And I'm on the committee for that. So I'm still very much engaged with it. And I would still anticipate doing a few more of these races, and possibly, if I can get my speed good enough, to look at if I can get age group records here or there, I would give it a crack. I do have one world age group record from that across the years race, which is still hanging in there. So I like that, because most of my records have been broken, but which is great in itself. But hanging onto one is good. So yeah, I'm not giving up. Is in the parameters change. I'm not chasing overall records. I'm chasing age group records. I'm chasing experience, and I'll still, if I'm in a race, I'll still be looking around to see, who else is in my age group. Even if there's not an age group prize, I'll actually, at the results, I'll look, did I win my age group?
Multi-day down in Ireland at the moment. I know there's one that goes in the summer from, I think it's from Bray and Wicklow, goes across then to Kerry and stuff like that.
That's unlikely to happen again for a while, just for insurance reasons. That's
right.
Again, I help organise IMRA, so I know that's the problem there. The insurance just had a complete conniption about that one and said we're not doing that again.
Is there, so people looking at that and knowing that's out, what's there for people on the island then for people to do for multi-day, would you recommend?
I'm not sure we have much in multi-day at the moment. I can't think of anything off the top of my head, but there's plenty nearby to travel to. The international calendar these days, I mean, we're so lucky that we're living in an era of easy flights and easy travel. It's just, there's no excuse for not
one of them was, I only saw recently on your Instagram, 360 Gran Canaria.
Gran Canaria, yeah. What's that? That's a multi-day trail race. 360 is for the 360 degrees around the island, so it does a loop of Gran Canaria. So I've done 5 of them so far, and the great thing about that particular race, it's on in November, which is a great time of year because not a lot goes on in November and weather's crap in Ireland, and you get to go down to Gran Canaria where it's completely the opposite. You're really, I say to people, if you want to get the closest to Barkley experience without going to Barkley, have a go to Trans Gran Canaria, because they will send you down some trails that will give you the full Barkley experience. As in, I remember one race briefing, they said, someone asked, they said, this trail is hard to find, and one of the runners asked, how hard to find? And the answer was, basically, it's not there. And that was fairly accurate. So yeah, it's a challenging race, and they change the route every year. Which makes it really interesting, and so you never know what's coming. And you run along these beautiful trails, it's absolutely marvelous, and you think everything is running well, and then you change onto a different trail. It's like, oh, holy God, what is this? I the first time I ran with a Garmin for navigation was in 360 2 or 3 years back, and I hadn't I hadn't fully configured it, so it was beeping every mile, which I would turned off as quickly as I could figure out how to do it. But I'd look every beep, and I could see I was doing 30-minute miles. And it's like, how do you explain to people that 30-minute miles is full speed? The trails are that difficult. It's just combat running. But yeah, I loved it. Absolutely, it's a great race, and I couldn't recommend it strongly enough. And again, it's multi-day. It's about 250 to 300 kilometers generally, and usually takes 2 to 3 days. But beautiful area, great organisers, lovely people. You get an awful lot of people returning again and again, and some of the really well-known multi-day ultra runners like Claire Banworth and Luca Papi, who has done every single one of them and will continue to do so. And yeah, it's just, I love it. It's the first race down on my calendar every year. I've already booked the accommodation for this year because I know the dates, even though they haven't done anything else. I know the date in the star line, so I booked the accommodation.
Before, just to wrap the podcast, I have asked this question on, I don't know when this episode came out, but last week we did a podcast on this. You set a course record multiple times, the Arthur O'Neill Challenge. How in the name of God do you run between checkpoint 1 and checkpoint 2 when your feet are going that deep into muck and mesh and rivers and all the rest? And then literally climbing mountains or parts to try and find the cross, along with navigation. I'm sure you probably did navigation back in the day doing it, because I saw you did 2014 records on the rest. How do you actually race that race in and get like 5+ hours?
I've had some of the most fun races in that one, actually, because back when it first started, and I was there for the first one, it was organised by a friend of mine, Garrod Towie, the very first running of it. Garrod was an Olympic rower, and he rowed across the Atlantic, and actually, he rowed most of the way across the Atlantic before his boat was smashed by a big wave and had to be rescued, which was quite a dramatic, that was headline news. That was all very dramatic. So Garrod's a good old tough boy. You know, Olympic rowing might look very sedate, but rowers are tough as hell. They are unreal. They can take pain like almost no one else. So Garrod set up the race as a charity fundraiser, and I can remember giving the briefing, despite being in it, giving the briefing and telling everyone else how to navigate the race in a room in Dublin Castle before we all set out. So I loved the early days because navigation back then, we weren't running with GPS watches. I was hand navigating with the map and compass, and basically my head, knowing that generally head south, and that will do it. So, and the more murkier and the more muckier it got, the happier I was. In the first few years, boy, it was icy cold. I can remember year 2, there were sheets of ice on the road, and you had to, you go flying, straight away, literally sheets and sheets of ice, 50 meters long. So you'd have to work your way around it. So you had all these challenges. Plus back then, the bridge over the river near just before what's now Checkpoint 1, that bridge was taken out in a flood, so you had to do a different route up by Capure Centre and over the mountain behind it, and that's actually a harder route and even more remote and muckier and more tufty bog. So it was
wow.
Those times were a lot slower, I could tell you, because it was longer and harder. But I loved that. But yeah, I managed to keep winning it for 4 or 5 years. 'Cause again, it's that navigation thing gave me a slight edge where I know exactly what I'm doing, and that's one of the trickiest navigational places you'll find anywhere. All those Pete Hags. I used to send my adventure racing colleagues out there. They asked for navigation tests, and that's where I'd send them with a few points to find, and they'd come back and curse me and thank me at the same time because it's so difficult to navigate. But if you get it right, it's it's a huge sense of reward. And the Art O'Neill was like that. And there were certainly initially very different lines you could take that were, there were a few different options in terms of where you go, through Arts Cross or through the hill behind it and up over there. But generally you just kept heading south. And yeah, I loved it. I loved the remoteness of it. And I used to, get in front enough so that no other head torches around. I'd be out there in the middle of the night on my own. Love it. Absolutely love it. And I can remember one of the years I banged myself, fell into a stream, cut my knee open, ended up running to the finish, seeing the medics, and they sending me off to A&E, having won the race.
Jesus.
You get that whole wound cleaned out and stitched up, but all part of the game. You can't let these things panic you. And yeah, I can remember having a great head-to-head with Paul Tierney, the great Paul Tierney, who is another great ultra runner. I call him on my phone. I have him as FCH Paul Tierney, which stands for former Cork hurler, because every media article about Paul tends to start with former Cork hurler Paul Tierney, because he has an All Ireland medal, which makes him royalty in Cork, where we're both from. But yeah, so he's far more royal than I am. But so we had a great head-to-head one year, and I managed to sneak aside him when I had to stop for a pit stop, and he kept going. And just before a particular route, I knew that he didn't, and I snuck in front. And there's all this kind of proper racing stuff going on. All's fair in love and war.
Absolutely brilliant. It has been brilliant listening for the last hour or so. I've listened for at least another 3-4 on top of that.
The problem is I could keep talking for another 3-4 as well.
I'm sure you could.
So that's the problem. We barely touched the surface here, you know.
I knew, look at the list of stuff you've done. I don't even think we touched half the stuff we talked about in the intro from your 4-hour races. And, you know, there's just so much there that we didn't even go near. But that's your fault for doing too much, Ian. That's not on us, so we're not getting any blame for that.
No worries.
For those that do want to see more of your stuff, you have a website where you do a lot of blogging on not only your own races, but I know you're talking about the upcoming spine race and everything else. What's that website people do?
So I have it's ian.keith at or .wordpress.com or something like that. I've forgotten exactly. If you Google my name,
show notes. Yes.
Yeah, if you Google my name, you'll get it. Plus, I have a Facebook athlete page where a lot of stuff goes as well, and the blog references go. That's usually where most stuff ends up there eventually. Sorry, it's Facebook for the younger people, but you know, I'm old.
Could be worse. We've gone back in logging at the old Bebo MySpace again.
Yeah. Well, I've been on the internet for a long time because, you know, as I say, I'm a techie person and it's kind of my area as well. So I was on the internet when there was only 2,000 websites. So you can imagine how long ago that was.
No, thank you very much for listening to this week's episode of the Any Given Run Day podcast with myself, Ian and Eric. Take care.